One of my buyers saved $150,000 when purchasing a home by avoiding a costly mistake. He had seen this house and was trying to negotiate directly with the seller, who was adamant on getting $2.3 million for her home. My client really liked the home and was willing to pay the full asking price in a private deal until he reached out to me to represent him. Once I took over the negotiations, I was able to bring the seller down to $2,150,000. If this buyer was to negotiate the deal himself, what kind of mistakes could he have avoided? Hey everyone, it's Gourav Khatri and I help people buy, sell and invest in real estate all over the GTA. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the negotiation mistakes that you need to avoid when purchasing or selling a home. So let's get to it. Not knowing the facts. Before you decide to put in an offer on a property, you want to make sure that you have all the facts to make an informed decision. You can't just put in an offer because you want to get a deal on a property. If you do that, the sellers will not take you seriously and may not even consider giving you a counteroffer. Now, what kind of facts am I talking about? Firstly, you need to sit down with your real estate agent and go over the recent sales of similar properties in the area to determine the true value of the home. In many cases, the true value of the property may be much higher than the listing price. That doesn't have to mean that there could be something wrong with the property which is making the seller sell at such a discounted price. A lot of times, it could just be a marketing tactic to get more buyers to see the house. Because as we all know, more buyers seeing the home results to more offers, which then leads to a bidding war. Another set of facts you need to gather are how many showings they've had and how many offers they've received. When you ask these questions, the listing agents may also indicate what kind of offers they've received and how close they were to the asking price. If a property has received a fair amount of showings and a decent amount of offers close or above the asking price, it means there is interest in the property and lowballing it would not make sense. I remember this one buyer I was working with, and like most buyers, even after knowing what the property was truly worth and how many offers we would be competing with, he still wanted me to put in a lowball offer to get a deal in a seller's market. My job was to state the facts, and being his representative, I prepared the offer as he wanted. Obviously, we lost out on the property, but the real kicker was when we were told that the sellers did not even consider giving us a second chance to improve our offer because we were nowhere near the top 10 offers. Does that mean that you can never give lowball offers? Of course not. There's a time and place for that too. For example, if the property has been sitting on the market for 60 plus days but is above your budget, you can try to lowball them and see if they will entertain your offer. If they reject you, you can come in with another offer because at the 60 plus days mark, there's hardly anyone looking at their property anymore. Negotiating over text and email. Many real estate agents try to avoid phone conversations at all costs, and that's why they try to negotiate over text and email. A lot of times, having a conversation over the phone will give you a better idea of the kind of pricing the sellers are after, how strong your offer is compared to the others, and many times the listing agents will even nudge you in the right direction. Overall, having a phone conversation will help you gauge the situation much better than texting and emailing. Most times, you will be negotiating through your agent, and you want to make sure that they do it over the phone rather than texting or emailing. And the reason you want to negotiate over the phone is because most agents are scared that they may misrepresent some information. Emails and texts can leave a paper trail, so agents are very cautious what they tell you over email and text. But over the phone, they can talk freely. When you're talking to them over the phone, you can also get a better sense of why the sellers are selling and whether they are desperate. These two things can give you huge leverage during a negotiation. Verbal negotiation. A lot of times what buyers like to do is ask verbally if the terms of an offer would be acceptable. The problem with verbal negotiation is that almost every buyer is doing it, which makes the sellers immune to that kind of negotiation. They know that the buyers are not serious and are just trying to negotiate a lower price without any commitment. Hence, they do not take you seriously and stick to their price and terms instead. Whatever your offer is, it is highly recommended to bring it on paper because it makes the sellers realize that you're a serious buyer. And it also opens the door for a counter offer. I've had listings in the past where the sellers accepted an offer much lower than someone that gave us a verbal offer just because the buyers were serious enough to bring it on paper. I remember this buyer I was working with. There was this property he was interested in and he kept asking me to give verbal offers but nothing on paper, even though I suggested that we bring in an offer on paper several times. The sellers of that property did not budge on their price. Eventually, that property sold for $50,000 lower than what my buyer was willing to pay. So my buyer calls me a few days later furiously saying I could have paid that too, but it was too late by then. As a buyer, your biggest fear is that you don't want to overpay and be stuck with the property. Hence, you give in verbal offers. But if you don't want to overpay, then put in an offer that you think the property is worth. The worst that could happen is your offer gets declined, after which you can bring in another offer and then another until the sellers accept an offer, be it yours or someone else's. Same goes for negotiations. Instead of verbally going back and forth on the terms, it's much better to negotiate on paper. By the way guys, please make sure to give me a quick thumbs up and hit that subscribe button to keep getting regular updates on my latest content. Emotions overtaking. Many sellers and buyers are guilty of letting their emotions take over during negotiations, even though they deny it. Your emotions taking over a negotiation can give the other side huge leverage over you. I had this listing a while back. It was a seller's market and my clients were expecting around $670,000 for their house. We had a few offers that were really close and maybe even acceptable to my clients. However, the buyer that had the highest offer, their agent made one big mistake. She told me that her buyers had been priced out of every single home they put an offer on and were desperate to purchase something. This gave us enough leverage to sell the home for over $700,000. If that buyer had not increased their price, my sellers would have still accepted their offer because it was the highest. Their emotions cost them over $40,000. A home is an emotional purchase, but you have to treat the transaction as a business transaction. You have to be willing to walk away from the deal if the numbers don't make sense to you. Bringing emotions into the transaction will cloud your judgment, thus costing you in the future. Not hiring a professional. This is the biggest mistake you need to avoid. Most people choose agents that are their friends, relative, or someone offering them some kind of incentive. Now these agents probably do not have as much experience or are bad negotiators, which is why they're offering incentives so that you work with them. If that is the case, how well do you think they will negotiate on your behalf? Imagine this, you hire a discount agent to sell your home at 1% commission. Since he isn't getting paid much, he doesn't spend any money on marketing and instead uses your listing to acquire more listings. Due to the lack of marketing, you have few showings and even fewer offers, thus selling for $50,000 lower than you could have. Yes, you saved $20,000 in commission fees, but you also lost $50,000 in the value of your home. Are you really ahead in the scenario? There's nothing wrong with hiring your friend or relative to represent you in a real estate transaction. But you should also interview a couple more agents to see who you would be more comfortable with and believe can represent your best interests. Instead of trying to save commissions, see what kind of value you're getting from your agent. Check their reviews and see their past work. A professional agent can guide you through the ups and downs of the transaction and of the market. At the end of the day, you get what you pay for. Let me know in the comments what mistakes you've made during your negotiations.